Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm looking back at 5 pedals from my playing past that I remember quite fondly for one reason or another. Either they shaped my playing or opened me up to new ideas, or I was just clueless, didn't know how to use them or make them sound good. But at least one of them was just plain bad. We're going way back to the beginning of my playing, so back to the mid-90s, to highlight some classic pedals and some not so classic pedals. Not all of these pedals were pedals I actually owned myself, some of them were owned by friends, but I played every one of them at some point. So yeah, let's get into it, shall we? So first up is an absolute classic, the behemoth that was the Zoom 505 effects processor. Released in the 90s, it was cheap and plasticky, but it was a really great way for young players to get into effects. I actually did a video on the 505 a little while ago. Picked one up on eBay, and then we just went through all the factory presets to, get a feel for what factory presets sounded like back in the 90s. The 505 was my very first guitar pedal, and it opened up a world of sounds to me. I mean, some of those are a bit questionable, and the way I used it was probably a bit questionable, but hey, we all got to start somewhere. Brace yourself. Zoom are featuring for a second time on this list with a pedal that I don't really hear many people talking about anymore, probably for good reason. The Zoom Driver 5000 was a pedal that my mate Ben picked up in the 90s, and it's one of the earlier overdrive distortion amp modeling kind of pedals, and it was absolutely huge. It's got a color knob on it which allows you to switch between 6 different kind of sounds, including stack 1 and 2, metal, and even R&B amongst others. I've watched a few demos on this pedal in preparation for this video, and honestly didn't hear an awful lot of difference between those modes. It seems that it was an analog circuit driving the overdrive and distortion sounds, with some DSP on top of it for the amp modeling part that you controlled with the color knob. Either way, it didn't sound great, and for me, every kind of position on that knob just sounded like a slightly different iteration of the same sound. I really should find out if Ben still has that pedal, because I think it would make quite an interesting video. Next up is the Danelectro Cool Cat Chorus. Now this was a cool one, and it was another one that Ben owned, but he let me use this quite a lot in the band that we were in together back in our school days. This pedal came out in the 90s, and it was part of the range that was modelled on the kind of 50s Cadillac look, so it had a really cool 50s inspired look to it. These pedals had a real heft to them as well, they really weighed a fair old bit. And the control layout on the chorus at least was fairly simple too. You just had a speed and a chill knob. I'm assuming that chill knob is depth control for the modulation. That one made the list just because I think it was cool. It's really unique, and it came from a period when there wasn't this kind of standardized look for pedals, and manufacturers were trying all sorts of different things, and Danelectro really hit on a pretty cool look, if you ask me. Next up we got the Boss GT5, and oh boy did I lust after this thing back in the day. I remember looking through the guitar magazines, seeing these all-in-one effects units from Boss and Digitech, and just wishing I had the money to get one. In reality, when I finally got hold of one, this will be in the late 90s at this point, I was honestly completely hopeless with it. You gotta understand, this is the 90s, tech was still quite primitive. I spent all my years learning guitar, playing music, and I'd never really got into technology. I remember not even being able to get the treadle to work with some of the patches on this board, and just getting frustrated with it really easily and giving up. Thankfully, these days I'm much better with technology. I've used stuff like the Helix and even Boss's kind of more recent foray into the multi-effects with a GT1000 core, although that does remind me of using some of these pedals from the 90s with its interface. last in my list is the Russian Big Muff, and oh boy, this thing just put me off fuzz for so long. Don't get me wrong, that's not because the Russian Big Muff is a bad pedal. This is absolutely user error. I guess I just didn't really know how to use fuzz. I didn't know what it was for, or where it was appropriate to use it. For distortion tones, I was used to using amp overdrive or kind of more overdrive distortion based pedals, and I just really didn't get on with the texture of this particular fuzz pedal. I think me and Ben both picked one of these up at the same time because we were both Smashing Pumpkins fans and still are Smashing Pumpkins fans. But the Russian Big Muff, it's not the one that Billy used for those records, and it doesn't really do that thing. Thankfully, many years later now, I've got over my distaste for fuzz, and I actually love fuzz pedals these days. I've got a muff based fuzz from 4PFX on the board. It's a special edition version of their Fallout Cloud, and I absolutely love it now. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that trip down memory lane looking at some of the classic pedals I've used in the past. Have you used any of these pedals in your playing career? What did you think of them? Let me know in the comments. If you'd like to see me do a deep dive on any of the pedals I've mentioned in the video, maybe not the 505 though, yeah, I've already done that. If enough of you leave a comment below, maybe we can look into getting one and doing a video on it. Thanks for watching and making it all the way to the end. If you did like the video, then do me a favour and stick a like on it. If you really like the video, then subscribe if you're not already. And if you want to check out that video I was talking about on the 505, I'll link it over here. Thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.